This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode contains spoilers from Kingdom of Ash and ACOTAR, with brief mentions of Neon Gods, The Demon Tide, Crescent City, House of Sky and Breath, and Twilight. There are also discussions surrounding sexual assault.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the YA literature and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are discussing The War of Two Queens by Jennifer L. Armentrout. And right off the bat, we are aware of the, shall we say, presence on social media that this book has stirred up, and we acknowledge it. We move on. We enjoyed this book. Say that up front.
Yeah, I understand people have polar opposites in their opinions of this book. I'm in neither one. It was good. I mean, was it my favorite one? No, but it was nowhere near the scathing reviews that we had seen in conversation. That being said, the frustrations that people are having, I do understand, but we'll dive into that in this episode.
Yes. We acknowledge and see the frustrations. We also have frustrations. We also are, about some things. And, I'm very neutral on this book. It's kind of, as you said, is it the best? No. Whatever, but I don't hate this book. I do not hate this book. I am on record about having a problem with Goodreads. This situation just kind of reinforces my problem with Goodreads and how, well, it just does. That's all I'm going to say about it, because we are talking about the book, and the book has a lot of fucking characters. Jess, please tell me who these people are.
We have so many returning characters, and we have new characters also. I think it's so nice to have a reminder. So, of course, we have Poppy, Casteel, Kieran, Venetta, who is Kieran's sister, who's now dating Emil, or something, who is also Venetta, or Poppy appointed Venetta as the crown regent. So if Poppy isn't there, or if Cass isn't there, she is the word of the crown. She has the best interest in mind. Then we could break down more of the family dynamics going on. You have Valen, who's Casteel's dad, Eliwana, who we will probably keep calling Ellie. From our Crown of Gilded Bones episode.
Consistency, people. It's Ellie. In ACOFAE.
Who's Cass's mom. You have Isbeth, who for most of the public knows her as Ileana, but is Poppy's biological mother. You have Malik, who's Cass's brother. Malek, who's Nyktos and Sarah's twin son, who is heartmates with Isbeth. You have Eris, who is Nyktos and Sarah's other son, who's the twin brother of Malik, and Poppy's biological father. You have Nyktos, who's Poppy's grandpa, Sarah, Poppy's grandma, Millicent, who is Poppy's full-blooded sister from Iris and Isbeth, who is also heartmates with Cass's brother, but she doesn't know it yet. Or maybe she does. I think you had mentioned.
I think she does.
She does now. She didn't survive the culling, so she's kind of something of a revenant. She didn't survive the culling because Casteel's blood wasn't strong enough because he was so weak from the first time of being kidnapped. There's a lot going on. And then, of course, we have some of our favorite Wolven returning: Delano, Perry, Emil, Nail, and Hisa is new, or maybe it's a new name. Arden is back. So we have a lot of returning characters, new ones, and those are kind of I don't want to say that they're just side characters because they're all so integrated into this book.
Delano.
No, ma'am.
Miss Jennifer put out a pronunciation guide. We appreciate that for you. You're the author. You can do what you want. I do not acknowledge some of these changes.
No. How do you? Because I think but in fairness, I will also say I'm in some of her spoiler groups that she has on Facebook, and she did a poll to like the people in the group saying, if there's a certain pronunciation, do you want it changed now? Do you want me to put a pronunciation guide of how it's supposed to be, even though we're like 4 books in? And there was a majority vote that people said yes. Great for those people. I'm 4 books in. I'm gonna keep saying it the way I am. So now I feel like I'm that person who argues with the Rhysand Ryson crowd because I always say Reeves.
But Stina did not say Delano.
Correct.
Stina said Delano.
Correct.
So I stick with Stina on this. Stina did say ether.
Is that how did she really say it?
Ether. I appreciate the changes, but like the number of times that word is said is beyond. So,
And you read it at a slower speed than I did. I'll have you know, I read it in Poppy's, when I'm in Poppy's POV, I read it at 1/6, and that's still elongated in the 1/6. So I can only imagine how it was in your 1/3.
Well, yeah, I was at 135 and it was ether. So at 1, I imagine it was like, oh my God.
That's why the length of the book, maybe that's why the audiobook was so long. Because ether took up most of the conversation. Oh my goodness. Okay. I want to say that Reaver is my new favorite character. I really enjoy Reaver. I also, we have Reaver.
Yeah, I also kind of enjoyed Callum, just because the witty banter, the witty kind of sassiness was new and different than the Poppy and Cass and all of that banter. And 4 books in, I am ready for something fresh and kind of new, and I've got that here, and that is really great. So I was messaging with one of our listeners. I will shout her out. This is Amira Jones. Thank you for listening. Thank you for messaging me to talk about this. We were talking about how the obsession that Poppy and Cass and everybody has with Reaver and his nudity and his pants situation is so fucking weird. Why is that in there? Why is so much time and effort spent on Reaver being nude and them wondering how he got into a building? It is so bizarre, and it takes up so much room where it's just just give it, why?
Just say he didn't have clothes on and move on.
Well, and they say that at the very fucking end of this book. It's oh my God.
But why did they focus on, okay, so you bring up a point. Why are they focusing on it? Because he's a new character? Because by this point in the book, we know that the Wolven shift between their Wolven forms and their human forms. And even Poppy makes a passing comment during the joining, and that's a whole different, we'll get there. She goes, oh, but I'm looking, I've seen him before. I've seen him without his shirt on. I've seen him without his clothes on, with all the shifting and all of them all the time. I'm indifferent to it now. So is it because he's a new character?
I don't know. I just thought it was weird. These are always they're always where'd you find this shirt? Or where'd you tie this sheet? Or
when he was wearing it like a toga, girl.
Yeah. And I was just okay, cool. But what is the fucking story here?
For Sage, for the other Wolven, she's
hey, hello.
It's like when there's a new kid at school, you're like, hold up. When we're doing our Buffy rewatch, it's, Xander watches Buffy walk in, and everybody knew there's a new girl. It's just it's fresh meat to them, So
it was just a really strange detail that I really enjoyed discussing with one of our listeners. So thank you for listening. Thank you for engaging. but I did enjoy this fresh banter because Jess was talking about this with you earlier. This book is very similar to other books in that it is just like, worry about something, go to a place, do something, worry about it, go to a place, do something, final battle, cliffhanger. That's that. That is not any different from other like fantasy books, but I just, I got very bored in Poppy's like POV in this book. And I was struggling. I was struggling with Poppy. I was struggling with Poppy's POV. I enjoyed Casteel's POV, but it was very limited. The whole book was like mostly Poppy. Casteel's POV was very small. And I enjoyed a different perspective because I ended up wanting just to like jump up and down and yell by the end of this and just being like, oh, rah! So that's where I'm at right now.
Well, you bring up a good point because we don't have enough POVs, right? When we get Casteel, it's great. We have a new narrator because it's not just Stina now. There's a new male narrator, and at first it took some time adjusting because we've had 3 books with just Stina doing Casteel's voice, but he did a great job. Here for it. But it wasn't, you know how some books that we read, they're kind of evenly keeled with the back and forth, with the POVs, like every other chapter, especially if, you know, it happens a lot in romance books where you have just the 2, you know, the male MC and the female MC, and it's just every other chapter, which is fine. Katie Robert did a really good job at bouncing it out between Hades and Persephone also. And it makes me, I mean, even with Sky and Breath is, all the characters are rotating. But this, and when we were talking about this earlier, you brought up a great point where we have so many characters in this book, but only 2 POVs. So yes, it's a great change from the first 3 books of just Poppy, and now we have Poppy Cass. But there's still so much going on that it would have been so fun to know Venetta's POV because she's crown regent leading shit, taking over other cities, and we know they're getting taken over because when we hear from Isbeth's like, you think I don't see what you're doing? Millicent says the same thing. Which side are you coming in? Are you going to come through the rise or are you going to go through the back entrance? You know, there's a lot more happening than just, I know it's a frustration of yours, the hand-wringing and the stress of stressing over the same thing when, you know, it's just very secular.
We could have, I say we as if I have any, like, say, a lot of the explaining of Poppy's braid flying over her face and the hair in her face and the tingling sensations and the ether behind her eyes. A lot of that kind of stuff I personally feel could be cut to make a leaner kind of situation going on here. But then I also understand that a lot of people like that stuff, you know, whatever. I am not one that skips over anything, which is why I like the audio because it forces me to like listen and pay attention. But you know, how many times the cheek touching, so much cheek touching. And I have got to tell you, if somebody came up and clasped the back of my neck, my fight or flight would activate. My elbows would be in somebody's dick. Like and it is constant here. It is constant. Everybody's cheeks are touching.
I don't know if it's because of, you know, physical touch is not my love language. Maybe that's an Atlantean thing. Who fucking knows? But there is a lot of it. And it made me, again, that's, you know, to each their own. But even with like different relationships, imagine your husband's best friend constantly coming up to you.
Yeah.
And holding your cheeks and putting his head, kissing your forehead and putting his forehead against the brow of your nose or the bridge of your nose and against your forehead and snuggling up. Like there are certain boundaries.
Okay. Wait. Let me stop you and say, pro-joining, right? We are pro-joining. We are pro-joining. That is not what this is. That is not what this is. We are pro-joining. Jess, I think what you're talking about is the before. All the before.
All the before. Because initially, I had even commented to you, I like the growth of their friendship is what I had said. They've come so far from the first book where they were just like an annoyance to each other. They were frustrated with each other. I love that they've grown in my head, their platonic relationship. Sure, she found him attractive, but like, I didn't think it went beyond that. Not to say I didn't want the joining to happen. I did also think it was a little too touchy-feely for me. I would never... The physical interactions that Poppy and Kieran have are not the physical reactions and interactions that I would have with my significant other's best friend. Personally.
Yeah, I really was uncomfortable with Kieran sleeping in Poppy's bed. In his human form, and then even in his wolven form, he is still a man, right? Like even in his wolven form, he is still a man, sleeping in and like, yes, I understand protection. I understand possessive. I understand like, Cass is like he's not there. So you protect what is, I understand all of this. It didn't have to be in the bed. It didn't have to be right next to her. It didn't. It didn't. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, in my head, I had initially pictured it the way Kingdom of Ash spoiler. It was Aelin is in the room and Fenris is in his shifter form but there is a proximity. He is by the door. He still is there to protect her, even though he's kind of chained. And it's still like end of series now. It's still a strictly platonic relationship. That's how I was kind of equating it to.
Yeah.
And that never meant that she didn't think she knew he was she even says he's one of the most beautiful people I've ever seen, so it had nothing to do with she didn't think he was hot. She didn't think she's not blind. Aelin's she's a smart girl. Same thing with Poppy. Kieran's a good looking guy.
It was just strange. It was just, I don't know. It read a little bit strange to me, but I understand both sides of it completely. My point is, he could have just been like at the fireplace. That is just what I'm saying. That's just what I'm saying. Just a little bit of boundaries there, since at this point there is no like romantic love there. It's or any kind of like there isn't there. It's not there. It's not there. So like whatever. Okay. Maybe, is Poppy's love language touch? Yeah, probably. So does it all make sense? Yes. Did it read weird to me? Yes. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Moving on. So they moved around a lot and attacked some cities. Yeah. This is the plot. Question. Poppy seems to have become a very formidable war planner and general. Since the last book? Did we know this?
I feel like she's learned a lot in the last couple months.
Yeah, because
I feel like she had to, right? Because prior to, initially, last we left off in the War of Two Queens, Cass is like, you're the queen, you can be queen. It's all about who you have surrounding you and who's kind of like in your cabinet, more or less. Cass gets kidnapped by Isbeth. She's gonna fucking rage. She's gonna kill everybody, and everybody like brings her back because she was gonna decimate the entire realm. We have to be smart about this. We have to be strategic. I guess between last year and this year, even though it's only been a couple months, but we'll just say in the last year, or really in the book, technically 40 days. She's working with Valen. She's working with the generals. Obviously, Valen has run a kingdom, so he understands the strategy that's involved with this. They've had wars. They've had battles. They're also taking over additional cities. So they're working with the generals within those cities. And, of course, Venetta is crown regent. So, they make a point to say, oh, they'll agree with you because if not, or they'll be willing to work with you because if not, here are the repercussions to their actions. Because it's not about taking over the cities because they want the people to be free, but they also need people to fight. And then you find out later when they go to Padonia that people are cheering for them because they realize that they weren't dictators and they weren't tyrants and they weren't taking over the cities. They really were about trying to save the people, get the bad guys out, save the good guys, and then build these armies and build a better world. That's essentially what we know at this point.
And it kind of all went to shit, right? Towards the end. That all went to shit, but we're not there yet. I want to talk about Castle Red Rock, because that was fucking horrifying, and it will bring us full circle to the end. So Castle Red Rock is the second or third place that
major city.
Yeah, major city that Poppy and everybody is going to, and Cass is still a prisoner with Isbeth at this point.
Before they split for their Carcedonia and then continuing on, right? Yeah.
So we have priests and we have temples and we have battles that are happening, and the dragon, the drakon are doing their thing, and everybody's doing their thing, and Poppy is trying to talk to the priests and trying to figure out what is going on. They're sneaking in, and there's all of these bodies that are up, and they're all dressed as the maiden, and it's all very horrifying. And there had been a rite recently, and they couldn't figure out why there had been another one.
Dressed as the maiden, and they were dead. They were some were crucified, some were laying on the floor, but they were all in the all white gold chains, maiden fit.
Yes. And this is so the horrifying things have been building up. So everybody was nailed to the gates at one city, and everyone was in a tree
hanging or something
in another city. So this one was the most horrifying one, and it's also the last horrifying one that we have to deal with. But it's called Red Rocks. Guess why? And Poppy finds out through the priests and everything that there had been another rite, and then they find all of these toy
kids toy you find out that it's not just you find out it's not the third sons and daughters. You're finding out it's not just these coming of ages of individuals who were sacrificed and turned to cravens and just kind of massacred, that there are children involved. There's she even said that there's babies that it's horrifying. It's so sad. And it kind of, and she even makes a comment of it, we go kind of referring back to A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, where Cass takes her to the special cave mountain area where they're documenting all the names of who the Ascendant have been falsely telling the families that their families are alive when they've killed them.
Ugh. It's so very, 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 very horrifying. I want to talk about Poppy's rage. Let's talk about Poppy's rage. Poppy is told over and over and over and over again to pull back, right? Pull back. You can't. Also, while I'm thinking about it, when was somebody going to listen to Poppy about her fucking mouth hurting? She said it over and over and over and over, and everyone was just like, oh, that's weird. Oh. But us, the reader, is like, you're getting fangs. You're getting fangs. Obviously, you're getting fangs. This is the obvious conclusion here. You're bitching about not having any of this stuff. You're obviously going to get it.
The only person who knew was Cass when she finally said something, because all this time, nobody paid attention. And then Cass, who is, which I still love Cass. He's still a great book boyfriend. He's hyper attentive. And he's finally back with his wife, his heartmate, all the things. And he goes, wait, you're not okay. What's wrong? Tell me, and I do appreciate that. I love Casteel.
He was like, is it your mouth or is it your jaw? It's fucking finally. Oh my God. Oh, and then, just a frustration that I have here. Okay. Millicent is Poppy's like twin, more or less.
She seems like she's almost the spitting image of Sarah. Yeah.
Of Sarah. So that is very interesting. I am interested in that whole situation. I really like her as a character. I like that she's like really weird, and I wasn't expecting her to be like strange. Like I don't know.
The excerpt of, you know, when Poppy finally goes to she doesn't go, they take her to the castle. And they're doing the whole wardrobe exchange. She's like, I am not wearing white. I will go fucking naked before I wear that shit again. And Millicent, you know, they have their back and forth banter. And then Millicent goes, oh, so I guess this is my problem. And Poppy's like, it is. Like that excerpt was in the spoiler group. So I knew she was going to be feisty, but I didn't know who she was. I didn't know what kind of character she was going to play. I didn't know if really the context. Was it just a sassy character, or was it like Callum, who's a bad guy, but had sass? We didn't know the context. So it was fun to see it play out. It'll be interesting later because obviously she's still alive, and that's its own storyline that's going to happen in the future.
I liked her because she was unpredictable, and I like unpredictable characters like that. When she went into Cass's cell and started like bathing, I was like, what the fuck is she doing? Like, what is she doing?
I didn't even realize she had makeup on. Did you?
Oh, yeah. They all have like...
Oh, like a matte. Oh,
yeah.
They did say that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just like... And then she said like her hair was like patchy, like colored, like the black was patchy. And I was like...
You're really good. But you're so good at picking up those details. And I know our listeners will be in our DMs and be like, oh, Laura pointed out this thing. And I didn't even think I didn't even think about it. And I go, you are so good at picking up those details. So you're always 10 steps ahead. You're always just very aware. I think it's great.
Well, I will tell you now. Okay. So I really love the movie Dogma. So Jess and I were talking earlier, and I sent her just Alan Rickman, where he's like, I am a seraphim, the highest choir of angels. And that is what I was thinking when Seraphina took over, like, possessed kind of Poppy, and Poppy had like a shadow of wings, and she's like doing all this stuff as Seraphina. Like, that's all I could think of. I was like, oh, finally. Is because like fucking duh, right? Like, duh. All of this is duh. But I just, it was so good. I couldn't stop laughing.
Well, speaking of duh, I feel like when everybody, again, at the end of the book, where people go, oh, you're a primal, or, you know, and people are talking, I go, didn't us as the reader, I thought we knew this. I know you and I have spoken about this, and maybe it was just post reading A Shadow in the Ember, where we were trying to make the connections of, okay, we're assuming, which is confirmed here also, that Sarah is Poppy's godmother or grandmother, and then we're making the connections there from the primal and the gods, and we knew all this stuff. So everybody else is realizing it, and I didn't realize that, oh, we weren't supposed to know. I thought we already knew. Here I was. Whoops. But it just shows how everything is connected. I do think, you know, everybody was doing the rereads. The only thing I feel like anybody really needed to read or reread was ASITE. And then this one.
Yeah, I feel like you needed to reread ASITE, but if you didn't, then you were just like, oh, okay.
There was still a lot of context, because speaking of context, we're still trying to be like, wait, what's the difference between a Craven, Revenant, Vampire, and Ascendant again? Oh, and the Drakis with the Germs.
And the Germs.
And the Unseen. They're all...
There's just a lot of things, a lot of creatures that I'm not entirely clear about, but you know.
The Barats they keep bringing up, and I think of the things in the Princess, not the Princess Diaries, the Princess
Bride. Yeah. I think of that too. Okay, Jess, we need to talk about the joining. Let's talk about the joining. We have to discuss the joining. I know.
So
we are pro joining.
We're pro joining. Give me a joining I am here for the Infernal. I have been wanting and petitioning in my heart a joining for Tess, Will, and Jem for the Infernal Devices. Petition my life away. Katie Robert does polyamorous relationships so beautifully. I have so much fun with them. I'm here for a joining too. I would have even been okay if it was just purely, it's Cass and Poppy, love, 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 or all heartmates. But let's bring in sexy Kieran over here to have some sexy time. The same way that ACOFAE, spoiler, Reese and Feyre are all like, love, love, love. But hey, if you're interested in Az, same. I'm all here for that. It didn't organically give us that. It felt forced. And I know that that's a popular conversation online of it feeling forced. But you had seen some good conversations that you can't unhear too.
Oh, I was hearing things like, okay, so if it like Poppy and Cass are heartmates, like heartmates, as you were saying, but then Cass isn't there and she's like getting feelings for Kieran, but they're not. What did she say in the book? It's not
familial.
It's not familial, but it's stronger than that. But it's not the same as what she feels for Cass. But then Kieran also like the like sex stuff that like he was showing her when Poppy was feeding. I was very uncomfortable with that. It's like, why are you doing that? Like, I'm all like,
I understand some books. I know this was a conversation we had with Neon Gods where I go, the voyeurism was a little weird for me. And I mean, we know, and it makes me wonder, am I a hypocrite? Because I get that that Poppy and Cass were watching Kieran get his blowjob on the beach, and she was naturally curious because the things this is like her porn, like she only knows the diary. She hasn't been exposed. Yeah. At that point, she had not been exposed to anything, and maybe they were like peeping in on like the foursome going on in the picnic table. Mm-hmm. I can't remember. But that was really her exposure. But it was weird to me during that feeding. He wanted her to know that he was watching her watch him. Yeah. That sounds so convoluted, but I swear.
Well, I think too, that it was the way that the author was building up to, right? So like we have that scene establishing Kieran as like a sexual kind of like Kieran and Poppy in a sexual situation, and like he's purposely like doing something sexual to her.
Well, and he said because initially he was just like thinking of memories of him and Cass.
Yeah, but he did it on purpose. Yeah,
and that's what he says after. Once he goes, oh, I don't know where that initial memory came from. And in my head I go, oh, that's kind of nice that he's giving her, some memories of Cass that she might have known. That's initially what I thought. And then when he goes, once I realized you were seeing my memories, I actively switched my memory.
It's just kind of weird.
Oh, I have the love quote. Kieran grinned, lowering his hand as I fought the urge to ask him what kind of love he felt for Casteel and for me. I knew it wasn't a familial one and that it went beyond what one felt for friends. I also thought it wasn't the same as what he'd felt for Alicia or what Casteel and I felt for each other. And then he goes, he was just so vague. It's the same kind of love that made me say yes to you.
Oh yeah, please. I will kill you if you need me to. Okay. Yeah. It's very frustrating. So that first scene with the memory, like establishes Kieran and Poppy in a sexual situation, acknowledging each other in a sexual situation. Right. And then we have Cass and Poppy.
No, it happens again too.
Yeah.
But we don't know what the second thing is because Casteel, because I think they were just feeding. I don't think they were hooking up yet. He sensed it. He sensed her arousal.
But then Poppy and Casteel have talked about finger and butt stuff, which was my absolute confirmation that the joining was happening. I was like, oh, okay. This is just a precursor to the joining. I was right. I'm a prophet. I didn't like that. I feel like if you're going to slip a little finger in, then you have to at least kind of acknowledge butt stuff exists before that. At least a little.
Oh, and she did. Oh, I guess. I mean, sometimes, and maybe this is just me being familiar with romance books. I am loving that there's more conversation about consent happening in books now. But that hasn't always been the case. So I always just kind of assumed that conversation, if it's not happening on the page, maybe it's happening off screen.
Well, 'cause she was so surprised.
But she really was surprised. And then she also wasn't, because he goes, "Oh, did you read about that in the book?"
Yeah. And she's like, "Yes, I did." It was like, okay. All right. But like, where's the lube here, sir? What are we working with here, sir? I just have...
But, it went from that extreme to, the non-talking about it, to flash forward to the joining, and everything is like, you tell us when to stop. This is all about you.
No expectations.
Right. So I hadn't, we were talking about that with the butt stuff initially, and how the conversation wasn't there. And then all of a sudden you see it happening. Not that I'm mad that it happened. Like, I'm glad that it's like, if at any point you're like, I'm out, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, this is too much. Because then there's also the conversation, which I appreciate, that Casteel brought up. This isn't a one-time thing. If there's somebody in Kieran's life, he's going to want them naturally to live forever, or as long with all of us. So that's going to be a fourth person involved with the joining. Other conversation, it's turned into this whole sexual thing. Whereas in the first 3 books, it doesn't have to be a sexual thing. And that's noted. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. In this case, it did. But I would have been fine with the joining even without it. I think everybody just assumed the joining was going to be a threesome.
Okay, so I have no problem with the joining. I have a problem with the way the joining was written.
The laziness of it?
Yes, I have a problem with the laziness of the way that the joining was written. I do like that Poppy says, like, I have brought us to the edge. I will make the decision. They have stopped. They will follow my lead. I am the one that has to say, and I have to say the words out loud. Like, I do appreciate that. I did not need paragraphs of nipple play. What I needed was penetration, and that is not what I got. I got hands are touching me, and I don't know whose they are. Mouths are touching me. I don't know who they are. And then one of them was inside of me. Not at the same time, though. But I don't know who it was.
But also, like, how are you not going to know the difference between your husband's penis and his best friend? You're like, familiar? Oh, that one's not.
That one's different. I just am not. I am upset with the laziness of the way that the joining was written. I would like some penetration there. I'm
looking at it now.
I wouldn't be this bitter about it if it hadn't have been this like thing, right? And I don't know. Here's the thing. Am I a devil's advocate? I don't know. I hate that term. Am I upset about the lack of graphic joining because the fandom has built it up, or because the books have built it up, or because I cannot separate the two, because I think it's the third one for me?
You can't separate the two. I can also say to what you have her talking about the joining where she goes, and everything was greedy. Hands and mouth and tongues and teeth and fangs were so greedy. I truly had no idea whose hands were here and who gripped me there. And it's just kind of like, use your imagination of like who was where. The only thing you definitely have confirmed is Cass is the one going down on her while she's like leaning back into Kieran. That being said, flash forward and back, I guess, throughout the whole thing of when it's just one-on-one with Poppy and Cass, we have all the details.
Mm-hmm.
So you could say like, oh, is it the third option where you were like, where is my frustration? But you could also say, well, you're not being lazy with these examples. Is it just you might not necessarily know how to write a threesome, which can easily, I'm not judging. That could easily, I have read her other books, and I haven't read any of them with threesomes. I haven't read all her books. So it could just be like a first foray into this new thing. I don't know. I'd be watching
making excuses. I don't know.
I don't know. I'd be the person like doing what Maddie does in Euphoria, where she started studying porn so she could be better at having sex with her. Well, she thinks it's a whole patriarchal thing, obviously the male gaze. But I would be that person, be like, oh, well, left hand here, right hand there. So I try to kind of maneuver, and I go, this doesn't feel like this would actually work.
This is where I appreciate Katie Roberts and the Barbies.
I love when she posts her Barbie.
The blocking out with the Barbies. I appreciate that. I would have liked to hear just a little bit more fucking detail, because, like, what the hell? I also have a problem with Kieran always being in the back. Let Kieran have a little front play. Let Kieran sleep in front. Like, I don't understand. Okay. Okay. Here's my other thing with them. So Kieran does sleep with them. They all do sleep together, the three of them.
He crawled into bed with them. They weren't initially, I don't know if it's an ongoing thing, but I know the one specific scene where it's her and Cass, and there's a comment of, oh, I don't know, and Kieran is behind me. I don't know when he crawled into bed with us. And then her and Cass start hooking up, and he goes, go to sleep. And then Kieran's pulling in Sky and Breath spoiler and Ethan, and he's like, yeah, go to sleep. Just, what is happening? Like, are they a thing now?
That's
or was
my
it just
question.
a joining?
Like, here's my question. I'm not going to say can, because it's not a question of can. Would Poppy have sex with Kieran one-on-one?
I don't think so now that Cass is back.
Yeah, I don't think so
but
either.
I don't think she would have, even if Cass was still away. Like, I don't think she would have ever. I think she emotionally.
But what about now? If Cass were taken again, what about now? Now, I think maybe. In the middle of the night? Yeah, I think so.
Well, doesn't she have a thought where she was concerned about the first time feeding off of Kieran and not knowing if it was going to be as sexually intense as the first feeding with Cass, or how it was like a suck and fuck thing?
Yeah.
She wasn't sure if it was going to be that way. And even then there seemed to be some, like, because of the, it's only natural that would happen, that I feel like she would have fallen back on that as like, oh, well, Casteel would totally understand. It was during a feeding and I was blitzed out.
I think she would say that now, because
I think she would say it now.
Joining. Yeah, after the joining.
But she was already contemplating it
beforehand. Yeah. So I don't know. I need a little bit more with the dynamics here, a little bit more definition. Just for my own personal, that's just my own personal thing. I just want to know. I do like that the joining takes place in the
wisteria tree.
The wisteria woods. Like, it's all purple and blue. Like, how pretty, right? That's, like, gorgeous. Love it.
It reminded me of, because I'm still kind of doing a reread of from Blood and Ash, when they're under the willow tree and everything is just like in this protective bubble, only they're under the tree, nobody can go through. And then when they were asking for protection, they were like, we're fine. She goes, oh my God, are all the wolf in here? I know they could hear everything, they could scent everything, they're like hearing the clap. All
the squish. Yeah. It's just like, I said it to you earlier, I do appreciate that afterwards Kieran was just like, I need and Cass was just like, nah, I'm good. Yeah, I need and Poppy was just like, nah, I love it. Just wrapped herself like in a blanket. I was like, ew, gross. Go bathe, stanky ass.
I mean, there's a lot of opportunities to bathe, and they just don't.
They just don't. They just don't.
At least here's my thing with Cass. I understand now that we got more history that, you know, trigger warning, he is a survivor of sexual assault. And Kieran even makes a point to say, like, he remembers how he was coming back from he wouldn't even take a bath because every time that he would bathe, it was kind of like cleaning him for the next time he was quote unquote to be used. So I understand why Cass doesn't like, he has PTSD being back in this whole scenario. And he goes, I'm going to be as filthy as fucking possible because I do not want to be in that situation again. Or he's attempting to, and obviously that didn't happen this time around, but it is part of the conversation. So I feel like Cass is the one who's getting a free pass right now for all of this stuff. Why nobody, they brought you hot water that they put on a fire. Thank you so much. Take it.
Take it. Please take it. Please take it. Please take it. Okay, let's talk about the end of this fucking book. I'm going to say that it's confusing, but maybe it's not, and I'm just dumb. But I feel like I know what's happening, right? But then, like, I talk about it, or like somebody asks me something, and I'm just like, I don't know.
When it's on, you know what it reminds me of? This is why I switched my major from marketing to communication. When I was in financial accounting, looking at all my accounting documents and all my accounting journals, when I'm looking at the book and matching everything up, makes sense. Absolutely. Take that book away from me for an exam, I'm fucked. That's what I feel. Looking at all the info dumping that Nectus gives us, because, Nectus is here. Reminder, he's a dragon from A Shadow in the Ember.
Yeah.
He's info dumping a bunch of stuff. We're getting a bunch of info dumping, who the consort is. We know about Sarah. We know about Nyktos. We're getting all the background.
Who the king is.
We're getting the background, which is, good on JLA for giving us a lot of this info dumping here if you also didn't read ASITE, because I feel like we had some of that background too.
Yeah.
And it's kind of re-explained here. And I feel like with some of this stuff, it has to be drilled into me because I cannot comfortably have a presentation about this book just yet. About the whole consort and everything and the primals and the third children and the ember and all that stuff. Cool. But I think it's going to be regurgitated until I actually process it.
Okay, so what is it? It is, so you have Ethos and Colas. Ethos is the primal of life, and Colas is the primal of death. Ethos is Poppy's great-grandfather.
So Nyktos' dad.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Okay. I'm just going through my notes. And Colas is Poppy's great-uncle. Okay. So the whole story is, the whole thing that set all this fucking stuff up is that Colas fell in love with Satoria, and she threw herself right off of the Cliffs of Sorrow.
He scared her or something off the cliff.
But I thought we learned in ASITE that, like, that wasn't what it is, and that he was, like, stalking her. And
yes, you're right. That is what it was.
Okay. So, so Colas, and Satoria is dead. So Colas went to his brother, Ethos, the primal of life, and said, bring her back. And Ethos said, fuck off, no. So then they start fighting about it. So then Colas stole Ethos's primal life essence, and he switched them. So now Colas is life and Ethos is death.
So that's why when you say is not the true primal of Colas is not the true primal of life. Okay.
Yeah. So,
which would mean, okay, sorry, continue. Because now I'm like making the connections again.
But then a kernel of life still lived in Ethos, even though they were switched.
And they hid it in the mortals.
Well, and the kernel went to Nyktos. But they were so afraid of that Ethos took the ember from Nyktos and gave it to Seraphina's family. And that's how Seraphina got roped into the whole thing.
And Seraphina's the third daughter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she got roped into the whole thing. So then Nyktos is a primal of death. Okay, but he's not like the. All right. So then moving on. Seraphina is the true. I wrote down all of her names. Okay, so Seraphina made the woven. She and Nyktos came together to restart the primals and everything. But then Colas and all of these priests and Isbeth are working together to bring Colas back to take over everything, right?
That's how Colas is involved with
That's how Colas is involved. That's how Malik is involved. That's how Isbeth is involved. Isbeth chose to kill Malik, and Malik's death will bring Colas back. Colas being Poppy's great uncle, the fake primal. Yeah, and then so the thing, whatever Seraphina and Nyktos did to lock away Colas has been undone, and that is the gray, I'm going to call it the rot, coming out that Poppy sees at the end of the book.
Which is another reason why they didn't want to bless Isbeth and Malik and do all that stuff, and why they had the sentries guarding where Malik was, because they knew if Malik was brought back from being entombed, it would kick off all the stuff with Colas.
It would kick off all the stuff with Colas. Okay. And Malik and Iris were never supposed to have children because it would risk having a female child, and the female child would kick off the cycle
all over again.
Yeah. So that's where we're at. So then, so Nyktos and the consort were supposed to be the last primals, right? They were supposed to be the last primals, but then, everything happened, and Poppy was born. So she and her children will be the next primals. Like, she's the restart.
If they choose to have children.
I did appreciate
that.
Yeah, if they choose to have children, they will be, Cass and Poppy will restart the line of the primals, which is just like so wild. And they don't say, and Nyktos does not say what Seraphina and Nyktos had to do to lock away Colas, but they said it had to do with balance.
Right, which is why they brought when everybody came back, because, there was that whole massacre. And Kieran or somebody makes the comment of, like, we really could have done without, like, the bad guys coming back. And Nyktos says, balance. That's what he says. So but we don't know why. And it made me wonder, okay, so we'll either find out more in the second, in A Light in the Flame, or I can't remember the exact name of the title, or even the third book of that series, because we have to assume it's after they have Malik and Iris.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking of, like, my brain is, like, kind of mushy about this, but I did like how Poppy was just like, wait a minute. You're telling me. Yeah, you already know. Go ahead.
Know.
Go ahead. You already know.
Where she goes, everybody's like, Nyktos, when it should be Seraphina. She goes, that is some sexist, patriarchal bullshit.
Yeah, and it is. But then Nyktos is like, it is and it isn't, because she wanted it this way, and we don't know why. Like, we
don't know why, because Nyktos, we know, is a simp for Sarah. Like, yeah. We're, like, building to that, even though we know they're, like, not in the best place right now. And she wanted him associated with it. She wanted to be hands off, all this stuff. So it's the why. So it's like, yes, but so now we don't know, because then it also makes me think, I wonder if it's the man is the head, but the woman is the neck. So she's like, I'm controlling all of this shit. So we don't know. Again, we don't know, but that's not a bad thing. Like, this made me more excited for the next, for fall of this year for this, because I know in our A Shadow in the Ember episode you had said like you love Sarah, like she is a woman, she is strong, she is sure, she is dishing it, whereas like Poppy is really finally coming into her womanhood more or less.
Jess, you sent me a video during the massacre that happened before all of this info jumping, where everybody that we know and love kept dying, right? I did not have that reaction. I had a very surreal reaction that I want to share with everybody. So when I was reading this and everybody kept dying, right? Like Hessa is dying and like Delano's going down and like all these people are going down. I was having that out of body Twilight experience in Twilight where like it's the battle and like everybody is dying and everyone is like screaming and everybody's dying and you're just like, oh my god, no. But then you turn out it's just like Alice's vision and you're just like you can like breathe again. That's what I felt like here, because when everybody started dying, like literally everybody, like everybody, I was just like, there's no fucking way. There is no fucking way that that this is going to be the end of it. They're not, like, she is not going to leave us with all of this death. It just doesn't, it didn't seem like JLA style.
Well, I didn't even pick up that everybody was dying, and I don't know if that's like an SJM thing, because as much as SJM kills off a lot of people, she also has just a lot of people injured. So a lot of the times I just felt like, but they're going to come back from it. The only person that I was really upset about was Delano. I love him so much. I've loved him this whole book, or the whole series so far. And I was, they talk about like somebody being gutted down the stomach and then somebody landed on a, I thought they were just like, they just knocked out, or even Malik even goes, oh, she just bumped her head. It's fine. And then I go, okay, she just bumped her head. That's fine. And I was on to the next. It was just a very fast pace, especially the way Stina is reading it also. This was happening. So I don't think I processed that everybody had died except for Delano.
You bring up a fantastic point, and that is Stina doing the fucking work. She's doing the work here. Every time she puts it in, she does not phone it in. I don't know if you listen to the end credits here, but she has some, I believe it's a directed by credit at the end of this. So congratulations to Miss Stina Nielsen.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
Right?
No, I didn't listen to it.
Yeah, I believe it is directed by and or arranged by Stina's getting that credit, and we appreciate that because she's so good. And she did a really great job here of going for it. Just
every time.
Yeah, just really going for it, and she really brings the emotion and the pace, picks up, and she gets breathy, and it's just good. It's just really good.
She feels like I love Stina knows these characters. Like she's in it, just like Lizzie knows Throne of Glass, just like she knows Crescent City. Like she is those characters, and I feel like when you have that familiarity with them, you make it your own, and I think that's also part of the reason we also enjoyed this book, because she helped, we were familiar with the characters. She brought it back in. It made it fun. Even if we might not have necessarily loved the writing, she made it more enjoyable than if I was just reading an arc, I think.
I agree with you completely. I did enjoy this book. I enjoyed watching Poppy be a queen. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed watching her make decisions. What I didn't enjoy was her admitting that she would burn the world down for Cass, and Cass would also burn the world down for her, and that everybody knows that. I don't like that. Although they all acknowledge the bigger picture, and I do like that. So it's conflicting for me that they are so. I mean, at least they're not magically bonded. Oh, they are. They are magically bonded to die. Oh my god, it's a fucking oh my god, it's ACOTAR all over again.
Now they are.
Jesus. Yeah, okay. I didn't realize that until I said it out loud. Well, okay.
Okay, so there was something that you had said during the Crown and Gilded Bones episode that kind of felt full circle. Not really full circle, but I wanted to know your thoughts when they were walking into Padonia and all the crescent, the crests were changed where they were equals. I do appreciate that. I know that was a frustration of yours. You were like, they're not fucking equals and this and that. Like, you have other shit to be doing that isn't related. Like, this is not this should not be a priority. But then here they go walking down Padonia. They have their crest. They're united. I do appreciate that Casteel acknowledges that, you know, while they are an equal front to the public, he knows that he's like, yes, I'm her little bitch boy.
Yeah. And you know what is also funny about that scene is I believe
it gets him horny.
No, those people,
I love that, but
those people that are seeing those banners have no idea what they mean. Absolutely none. They've never, I think the comment is they've never seen an Atlantean before, and they will be shocked to find out that they look the same as us. And I was just like, okay.
What have people been thinking this whole time then?
That they look like the Craven.
Oh.
Yeah, that they look like Craven.
Oh, that's right, because the Atlanteans were painted as bad guys.
Yeah.
For so long. That's right.
Yeah. So it's just like, okay, these people don't have any idea what any of this means. This is just for you. Like, okay. I get it. It's a message. I get it. It's okay. It was funny. I do really like that you bring that up. It is full circle because they bring up what's his name that is so good with like cloth and like fabric and stuff, and like they bring that up again too. It's just like, oh, okay. So that is full circle. So yes, I enjoyed Poppy. But you know, I wanted Poppy just to be angry. I wanted Poppy to just unleash her ether way earlier, and I wanted it to just...
Did you want her to hit her villain era?
Yeah, burn it down. Like, because that was the threat, right? She cut off Jalara's head in the last book. Like, what did she do here? She ran away a lot. And she escaped a lot. She plotted a lot. She talked and stood up to leaders a lot and got angry and fought. And it was the fighting that kind of... Everyone was pulling her back. Even Reaver was like, don't use the ether. It draws the drak whatever to you.
That made sense, though. He's like...
That makes perfect sense, yeah.
Fight any way else, because you can. You know how to.
Right. That made perfect sense, but there has to be some sort of, like, commentary here about, like, female anger, right? Because that's what it is. But I also really want to acknowledge that Poppy has a cold pit in her that nothing will fill besides like intense sexual release. And that hasn't been addressed yet. And I feel like that's really important. What is this cold part of her? Is this the life and death that are like warring inside of her? And like when she's really cold, death is winning. I need more on that because that is more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and we know that the death part comes from Nyktos because it starts, you know, when we're getting the info dumping, that information is there that Nyktos is the death and Sarah is the life, and she is a byproduct of both. Whereas Nyktos is saying, you know, everybody keeps saying Nyktos is primal of life and death. He's not, and, you know, but Poppy is. And we know that. So is if she gets cold enough, is she gonna hit her villain era? I want to see that, but like her mom's dead. That's the other thing. Like, Jess, you and I were talking about this earlier. Like, something that doesn't sit right with me is that this entire thing is with Poppy and Isbeth is mommy issues, and then with Isbeth and Ellie, it's just it's jealousy and women fighting women. And then I just... It did start with jealousy. I don't even want to say like if you live long enough being a hero, you turn into the villain, because that's not what it is. Because she did their first son, her and Malik's first son died. I'm not not just, I'm sure she'd be so upset about that. But the vengeance seems to stem from her hate with Ellie.
Yeah.
So, like, again, pitting women against each other. Like, there's, with all this plot that we're getting, there should be more. I feel like there should be something of more substance there. No?
I agree with you. And also the very toxic mommy issues, like the scene with Isbeth where she finally has like Malek. She finally has Malek back. She's like, yes, oh my God, I love you. And then she fucking stabs him. And everyone's like, what the fuck is going on? And then
nobody saw it coming.
Nobody saw it coming except Reaver. And then eventually Isbeth is like, I chose him. I chose to kill him because I couldn't kill you because I love you. You're my daughter. I was just like, fuck you with this toxic mommy bullshit. Oh my God. That was so triggering. Like, what? Sorry. No.
And then when they between Poppy and Millicent, where they were like, you got to remove the Shadow Stone from Malek. And then she goes, both of my daughters turned against me. I'm so proud.
What is happening?
Oh, everybody. I just, Kaven has that good skit she used to do where it's like therapist and Prithian. I think there needs to be a designated therapist in every fantasy book. Just, on payroll. Tell me about your problems.
Well, okay. So let's talk about very briefly things that took us out of the book. Things that took us out of the book. Obviously, I'm on record of saying ether took me out of the book. Kieran saying that he's not a snack, he's a whole meal.
Callum being called a fuckboy.
Right to jail. Straight to jail. They pieced out. I think Cass says it. He's like, they pieced out. It's like, no.
In reference to Millie and Malik.
He was like, no, stop. I can't. And I can't. Oh, were there others? Those are the ones where I was just like.
Those are the ones that stuck out.
I didn't like Kieran making question jokes during the middle of their threesome. I didn't like that. That was very cringy. But those things were just like, I'll say it, Jess, I said it earlier. I'll say it on the pod. I had read somewhere on TikTok and I do not know where, so I cannot give credit and I'm sorry. So if you do know who said it, please let us know and we will tag them. I read somewhere that this book is doing a lot of fan service to 40-ish plus-ish, and that's a generalization, and that is what they said. That's not what I'm saying. That is just a generalization. 40-plus-ish wine mom fan service, and I see it.
I see it. Do you think it's so that this could cater to their wine mom book clubs?
I do.
Again,
sort of.
And like, I say it in like a generalization.
No, yeah, and no hate either, because like, good on the moms, but like, I put through that lens. Some of the things make more sense. But also, here's what I'm going to say. But also. I know there's a lot of people that are angry that this has shifted to like a geopolitical fantasy instead of a fluffy vampire romance. And I was of that too. So I went into this, and I was talking about this with our listener who I mentioned earlier, and Jess, I was talking about this with you too. So I went into this like, ooh, fluffy vampire romance. Like, where are we going to go with this? Where are we going to go? It's going to be fun. There's going to be joining. All right, fun. A little bit, like a third of the way through, I was just like, okay, I need to shift my focus to like, this is a major geopolitical like war situation that I need to kind of pay attention to. I say pay attention to, but, so when I shifted my focus away from that, I was able to enjoy this more. And I will admit this freely. I was not able to put this down. Like once I got going, I really went through with this.
Yeah. You were like, I hit my stride. Mm-hmm. Once I got, I've openly said usually when I do the audio, if I want to pay attention, I also get the ebook. But typically prior to like, From Blood and Ash, just like reading it, I didn't need the ebook. I was really just listening to it, and I found, I showed you what my Kindle looks like with all the highlights. So it was shift, and you did need to focus, and in a good way. I mean, this is the stuff that we're familiar with. We do love a geopolitical focus in a lot of the books. I felt like this book, you made a statement the other week when we were talking about Sky and Breath, about it feeling like a Two Towers books from The Lord of the Ring, being like a bridge book. There's all this information. What are we going to do with this information? And I feel like this is the third book in a row that we've read in the last 3 weeks, really, where the Demon Tide was like that. It was information and there was action, but there was still a lot of background of what's going to happen next. And then we get it again with Sky and Breath of here's all this information, here's all this background, here's all this, but I guess we're going to see what happens next. And here we are with another thick book in what's going to happen
next. Like, yeah, it is. So, like, I have to say, whenever these books come out again, like, that year is just going to be banging because it's going to be like bam, bam, bam. And, I love that for us, but like, whoo, right now it's just like, I need something. Yeah, I need something. Jess, did you like this book?
I did. I enjoyed it. I mean, again, I'll say what we said at the beginning of the episode. Was it my favorite of the series so far? No, but that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. I give me Casteel any day. I will wrap him in a warm hug, stinky in feces or not.
Definitely. I know you highlighted a lot of quotes. Did any quote like stick out to you? Did you like anything in particular?
Well, I love that's some sexist patriarchal bullshit.
Yeah,
that was a huge
that was great.
highlight. It aligns with everything that we talk about. Also with all of this was bigger than us. My grief was mine and it was potent, but it was no more devastating than anybody else's grief. I think that's just a great reminder that we're all going through something, and you can't devalue somebody else's emotions or feelings or how they're processing, because you can't negate, who are you to minimize how somebody else processes something or feels something. I think that's just a great reminder for all of us. And then when Poppy goes, I want to sit down and have a good cry, but there's no time for that. I mean, that aligns with pretty much every quote that we always talk about.
Those are great. Those are absolutely great.
Did you like it? Are you like, what are your thoughts? Did you have a favorite scene?
Yes. My favorite scene is when Reaver flies into the castle courtyard and wraps himself around the tower. I got very Priory vibes, and I like that a lot. So that was my favorite scene because it was like a bam, like powerful moment, and everybody's there like a horses, all that stuff. Yeah, so I like that. I love Casteel. I love how Casteel loves Poppy. That is just like, that is my favorite part about this book. So that is why I really had to make an effort to shift to a geopolitical romance, because my favorite part of these books is how Casteel views and loves Poppy. So yeah, and I liked that when Poppy gave consent for a 3-way, Casteel was like, I don't deserve you. You're magnificent. I was just like, you would say anything right now. Like,
well, I mean, everything, like every time he found out she did something, he goes, oh, like when she was threatening Callum and he was basically over the brink, and he goes, I love this. Like, she is so, she is my, tiny, fabulous, murderous little creature, and I love her so much. Like, I love that we get that with everything that she's taking over cities. He's like, that's my girl. Like, he's constantly feeling like he's not worthy. And I love that. I love that. And then he goes, you were this, you were a princess, you're a queen, you're a god, you're a primal. And he goes, what do I even call you? How do I worship you? And she's like, I'm just Poppy.
Yeah. You don't have to say anything. I'm just Poppy. Which brings me to the comic that we quote all the time, which is so fucking applicable here. So this is a comic by Adam Tots. It's every dystopian YA novel. And it has a girl, and it goes, my name is Wicker Basket, and I'm the chosen one. I'm very plain, but also gorgeous. And then it's It's 4 parts. And the second part is 2 hot white dudes are in love with me. Which one do I choose? Third part. I'm so clumsy except for all forms of combat. Fourth part. Also, I'm a vampire. And she has red hair. It is just very, very applicable here. And I know it's applicable. We use it a lot, but it is just so freaking funny. It is just so freaking funny because also the I'm a vampire thing. Oh my gosh. The highest choir of angels. Yes, I liked this book. I just want something to happen. I just want the epic thing to happen. You know, like Poppy being possessed by Seraphina and like fucking shit up. And, you know, I like that. I want consequences that stick, I think is the thing that is bothering me. Cause like Poppy brought back everyone to life, right? But Poppy like through Seraphina and like through Nyktos, Nyktos, they all did it together.
Right. And they had to get permission more or less because it wouldn't have happened otherwise.
So it was a whole thing, but like there were no consequences. So like what are the consequences now? Like I don't know. It just felt like floating. This is what I feel. I feel like I'm floating and that there isn't anything like going on right now. You know, like we're all just kind of waiting for the next thing to happen. And that's fine. Obviously, that's fine. I like this info dump and I like this end scene with Isbeth. I liked from Isbeth stabbing Malek onward. I think would be like my second favorite scene besides Reaver. Just because we get all that info dumping and we get the possession, we get the scene, we get the things coming up, you know, epic. So yeah, I like this book. I will not pick this up just to like reread unless I have to. But I'm not gonna like shit on it either. There's things wrong with it, obviously, but I mean, it doesn't suck. I've read way worse shit. Way worse. There's I mean, there's a lot of stuff wrong with this. There's a lot of stuff wrong with, you know, JLA and kind of how she writes things, you know, whatever. But the book is fine. The book is fine. Like,
and it's not an attack on JLA.
No.
Don't get that confused. Everybody has an issue. Like, not every, like every author.
Every author has an issue.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a thing. If you want to get into issues, don't threaten authors. Just don't do that. Just don't do that. We can ended at that. Like,
have your opinions, but don't threaten people.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's wild.
You know,
that's
there
wild.
are bigger things at hand, honestly.
Yeah. So yes, I like this book. No, I won't reread this unless I have to. You know, but that's just how it is. It's fine. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I like where everything is going. I'm excited to see where it goes. I would like to see things fleshed out more and the unnecessary descriptions cut. Yeah. I think that's fair.
I mean, and you know what? And honestly, the way this book ends, it tracks with how every other book in the series has ended, where you're just left with more questions.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
Just left with more questions, which is, you know, fine. That's fine. That's fine because that's
what keeps you going, right?
That's what keeps you going. Yeah. And it's also like the history. Like we are all here for a good time, right? That's what we're here for. And
which was so nice when she brought back the scenes of Cass and Poppy fighting together and stuff. Like, I just felt like this is just like book 1 and 2. You know, it just felt like, you know, it felt nice to pay homage to like bringing back the stuff that we started loving about the series in the first place.
Well said. Well said.
So feel free to follow us on Instagram. We're at ACOFAE Podcast. We're also both on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. And of course, feel free to leave a 5-star review wherever you are listening that allows that. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to y'all soon.
Thank you.
Bye.